Hello students, welcome to Tax Ma'am classes. Today we are going to discuss about the concept called clubbing of income. It is unit number 3 according to the Usmani University, and as the exams are getting near, many of the students are asking me to explain all the concepts, but you know that I can't explain all the concepts within a week, right? So if you have any doubt, you can mention that doubt in a comment section. We will be happy to help you. So now coming to the concept clubbing of income. Before directly going to the definition or meaning of clubbing of income, I want to give you the basic definition of income tax. What is the meaning of income tax? According to Income Tax Act 1961 was tax on income which is earned by a person in a financial year or the previous year. So by now you must be knowing what is the financial year, previous year or the assessment year. So what all the income will be earned by a person in the previous year will be computed, and the person is liable to pay tax to the government in the present year, which we will name it as assessment year. So how it is taxable means a person whatever the income he is earning or she is earning is taxable. So now how it is taxable means according to the slab rates. What is the slab rates? Why we will follow slab rates means the more the income the person have to pay, the more liability. The less the income the person have to pay, the less liability. So now coming to the concept, why I am mentioning here means if a person is having more income, he have to pay more tax liability. So to avoid the tax, what one person will do means instead of paying more tax, he will transfer his a part of the income to some other person, or to his spouse, or to his family members, or to his children. Why they will transfer to children or spouse means indeed they can reduce the tax liability. So whenever the person is transferring his part of income to some other person, they are avoiding the tax. So there came a concept called clubbing of income. What the meaning says means if any person is transferring a part of the income to any other person without any adequate consideration, that income will be taxable in the hands of transferor only, not in the hands of transferee. Even though the transferee is transferring a part of the income to the transferee, the income whatever he is transferring will be charged under the hands of transferor, but not in the hands of transferee. This rule was given under the clubbing of income, and we have the provisions. So let's see all the provisions and let's learn the clubbing of income. So now coming to the first provision, section 60 talks about transfer of income where there is no transfer of asset. So under section 60, where the SSE is transferring an income to another person but without transfer of any asset. The person is not transferring any asset, but he is transferring only income. In such cases, whatever the income is transferred, the income is taxable under the head of transferor only, but not in the hands of transferee. Second provision, section 61 talks about revocable transfer of asset. That means here the transferor is transferring the asset to the transferee, and it is a revocable. That means after some time the asset can be taken back to the transferor will take back the asset. So in this case, what all the income transferee is earning, all the income will be taxable under the hands of transferor only, not in the hands of transferee. Third provision, section 64 subsection 1 subclass 2 talks about any salary or commission or fee or any other remuneration received by a spouse from a concern in which other spouse has a substantial interest. What is a substantial interest means if any person is working in a company and the person is having more than or at least 20% of the equity shares, that means voting right, the person will be called as he is having a substantial interest over the company. So what is here, I will explain with an example. For example, let's take Mr. A is having a substantial interest in a company, and from that company, the company is giving some income to Mrs. A, that spouse of Mr. A. The company is giving some income or some remuneration to Mrs. A. then in this case the income whatever Mrs. A is receiving will be taxable in the hands of Mr. A only, but not in the hands of company, or but not in the hands of Mrs. A. Why? Because here in this case Mr. A is having substantial interest over the company. So whatever either Mrs. A is receiving from the company, it will be taxable in the hands of Mr. A only, not in the hands of Mrs. A. Fourth provision, section 64 subsection 1 subclass 4 talks about where income from asset transferred to spouse without any adequate consideration. For example, let's take Mr. B is transferring an asset other than house property, according to the provision other than house property. So Mr. B is transferring some asset to his spouse without any adequate consideration. Then Mrs. B is earning income from that asset. Then the income will be taxable under the hands of Mr. B only, but not in the hands of Mrs. B. Fifth provision, section 64 subsection 1 subclass 6 talks about where income from asset transferred to son's wife without any adequate consideration, whatever the income is the daughter-in-law is receiving will be taxable in the hands of transferor only, but not in the hands of transferee. Sixth provision, section 64 subsection 1 subclass 7 where asset is transferred for the benefit of a spouse. Let me explain this with an example. Let's take Mr. Krishna is transferring a house to his friend, stating that the rental income should be used for the benefit of the Krishna's wife. So now what all the income the his friend is receiving will be given to Mr. Krishna's wife, but what all the income is receiving will be taxable under the hands of Mr. Krishna only, but not in the hands of his friend or his wife. Now coming to the seventh provision, section 64 subsection 1 subclass 8 talks about where income from asset is transferred to a person for a benefit of son's wife. In this case also the same thing. The income whatever benefit is transferred to son's wife through a person directly or indirectly, it will be taxable in the hands of the person who is transferring it, but not in the hands of a person, the middle person, or in the hands of son's wife. Coming to the last provision, section 64 subclass 1A, income of a minor. The income of a minor will be clubbed in the hands of a parents whose income is higher, that means mother or father whose income is high. In their hand the income of a minor will be clubbed, but in few cases it won't be clubbed. What are the cases? Means where the income is earned through manual work done by the minor child, or by activity involving any skills or talents, and if a minor child is suffering from any disabilities which are specified under section 80U, in these three cases the income will not be clubbed in the hands of parents, but it will be taxable in the hands of the minor child only. If the income is clubbed in the hands of parents, then parents can avail exemption under section 10 subsection 2. The amount of income clubbed, or 1500, whichever is less, will be allowed as exemption under this section. So these are the few important provisions of clubbing of income. If you like my way of explanation, please subscribe my channel. Thank you.